It's a, yeah. Let's just say it's an unfortunate hour. Product of my own mismanagement of time. But in a much more real sense, it's time to go do legs. It's time to go pump my hamstrings up to, well, as pumped as I can get them, and then follow that up with the same thing for quads. And the only reason I really kind of am a little bit off put by doing this late is because I have an exam tomorrow. Anybody know anything about mental fatigue and repetitive wear and a few other things which I really am not necessarily super well versed in as of yet? By the time I post this video, it will be too late for you to help me. But whatever. That's a class that's actually much later in the day at like 4:30. So I've got the whole day tomorrow. And I'm not that ill prepared. I mean, come on. Come on. I know a little bit. But I know much more about how this workout is going to go. Quads is kind of, it's in the air. It's a little bit more so, well, let's just say there's a little more variability in how I'm going to approach quads depending on the day. Because for me, hamstrings, apart from, actually, that's not a very good example. I've really kind of tweaked my hamstring a few times doing really heavy hamstring curls. Probably, maybe 5 times ish from going too heavy too quickly, which I have learned my lesson from, and now I ease into the warm up a little bit more methodically, so I don't do that as much. The last time I really pulled my hamstring good was last Christmas, which was no fun really. I was doing a laying hamstring curl, and I was also like peak diet. Uh, I think that was actually right just like a month before the first YouTube videos started, or before the first lifts were recorded for the actual YouTube videos. But totally wrecked the right hamstring, big ass pop. Of course, it's back to normal now, but yeah, I guess word to the wise with any muscle, make sure you get a proper warm up, especially if you may be in a little bit more of a, let's just say, weakened state. Because this is about 2 months deep into dieting, pretty lean, and I'd say for the most part, at least for me, I'm a touch more prone to tweakage of stuff all over when I'm dieted down. You know, not like my tendons become fucking brittle or whatever, but when you have a ton of food at your disposal, kind of a bro sciencey way to talk about it is all your joints are nice and lubricated from all the fats you're eating. All your muscles are nice and full of carbs and water. They're like stronger. That's kind of just mumbo jumbo lifter talk. But yeah, really I was just going too heavy too quick. But apart from that, which has been a while, my hamstrings are solid. Never really mess with them. Even on a day when I may be a touch fatigued from, for whatever reason, hamstrings is always a very consistent lift. If I feel really good or if I feel kind of trash, I can still get a really good hamstring lift in. I don't have much trouble getting my sets done to legit failure, to the point where I really can't move the pad anymore, at least more than a few inches. And then they just get, pumped to hell. But with quads, with quads, it's a little more touchy, because your knees can be a little bit extra tender one day compared to the next. Every so often, I feel a little something kind of mid quad ish, like I'm talking vastus medialis. Actually, I'm not sure that that's the right name. But whatever. Sometimes my quads feel a little touchy. So if I feel like I should maybe go a little bit lighter weight wise and save heavier pressing for the next quad day, then I'll just kind of bias leg extensions. Do a few more sissy squat drop sets. Ah. And just go about the pump that way instead of, really trying to push heavy pressing. Because the last thing you want to do is like, tweak anything consistently when you're lifting. If you got a bum shoulder because maybe you busted out your golf bag after a few years and you didn't really realize how out of practice you were, and you fucking tweaked your rotator cuff, and then you keep going to the gym doing chest, and every time you do it, every time you do flat bench it hurts you, but you just keep doing it. Don't be surprised when suddenly, you're the guy talking about, oh, I used to be able to bench 315, man, for reps, but then my shoulder fucking, come on, we all know this. We all know this. And if we use just a touch of logic, it makes sense. But I hate to say it, I've seen the same guys for a long time, at least reasonably long periods, who, if you go to the gym, the same gym for long enough, and you kind of, get engaged with the fucking, the regulars there, and you talk to them, you just talk about like what they're hitting, and if they got something tweaked, and I'll hear from the same dude for months on end, oh, dude, my fucking shoulder hurts every time I bench, shit. And then they're telling me this as they're benching. Like, as they're doing sets of bench, they're telling me that it's literally hurting them. Doesn't really compute. Does not freaking compute, So maybe back off on pressing. Maybe bias a little bit more cable work or flies. I've been pretty good about my rotator cuffs for a while now, because two things in my training have changed, which I would kind of, give responsibility to my shoulders being in better state for, just a pretty good freaking while. And that's one, being I stopped flaring my elbows out so far when I bench. There's older clips, I think mainly from TikTok videos that I have posted, where I'm benching, and instead of having my elbows a little bit more tucked in beside my torso, I'm really kind of wide. Now if you're doing that with like a dumbbell, I'm not so concerned, but with the barbell, eesh, I feel fucking strong and it's really hitting my chest, but something about it, it's just must be unnatural. And the last thing you want to hear as you're doing a set is like fucking crunching in your rotator cuff. Oof, not good. So I started benching with my elbows a little more tucked in. What I would probably say is the right way to do it, at least for heavier loads. I haven't done it so much lately. I used to do this kind of fancy superset with chest, where I would do like dips or something first. I used to like bodyweight dips, and then jump straight onto flat bench with a really wide grip and have my elbows super flared out, and only have like a plate, or like a plate and a 25, and kind of bust out reps like that. I feel like the reps I was doing kind of look like Marcus Rule on the Smith machine, if you know that clip. But whatever. So for the most part, having my elbows tucked in has improved my rotator cuff, let's just say, longevity. No tweaking. And then also, I do a pretty substantial shoulder warm up before I even start any heavy pressing. I'm talking face pulls, or kind of, well, not really a face pull. I'm not really sure what you'd call this, just kind of rotator cuff activations. Like, you could do this with a 5-pound or 10-pound dumbbell, whatever. Sit here like this. I really like it with a cable, though. I'm talking D handle, eye level, back up a few steps, and then do that with a cable. Just kind of gets your rear delts going, your rotator cuff, all sorts of fanciness in there. And not only do I think that kind of just improves my shoulders strength or whatever, but it does feel better to bench like that. When it comes to warming up, I mean, before I do hamstrings, I'm just going to sit on the hamstring curl and do like light sets, 10 reps, 5 reps, whatever, until I work up to my working weight, and then I'll actually start the lift, because I've gradually exposed myself to the weight, and now I can really hit it. Same thing with quads, I'll do the same thing for leg extensions, or biceps, just do bicep curls. Oh, God. But with chests, since I'm gonna start with heavy pressing, I'd say ish. I mean, a squat has a lot of moving parts, but I'd probably say an incline press, that's probably got the most moving parts out of any movement. At least any basic compound movement, you know. Shoulder press too, but I don't really do that. Uh, my triceps are firing, my forearms are firing a touch, my chest is firing, of course, and then front delts, shoulders, even if not to lift the weight, but just as stabilizers, they're going off too. Plus your back to keep yourself stable. That's pretty much everything but your fucking legs. And you're probably using your legs a little bit just for leg drive. So, with all that in mind, would it not make sense to warm up everything that's going to be activated? Of course, I'm going to sit there and do, some kind of cable work, pec activations, maybe get on like a chest press and just kind of do lightweight, really kind of focus on contracting. Some single arm tricep push downs. Then, of course, I'll even do a couple of light rows just to kind of get my lats firing a touch. I don't mean to turn this into a chest talk, but what I'm saying is before any lift, at least the main movements, I kind of want to warm up everything that's going to be associated. So before I start hamstrings, I'm also going to warm up my calves a touch. I'm not talking real working sets, but your calves kind of do get activated secondly into your hamstrings in a hamstring curl. I'm sure you probably noticed this. You can feel your calves flexing as you do a hamstring curl. Just like your forearms are going to activate a little bit with your biceps. The hamstrings, the biceps, they're the main mover. They're the primary targeted muscle, but you got your secondary muscles down here too. So touch your calves, gradually get my hamstrings a little bit more exposed to more and more weight, and then just start firing off sets. Oh, I'm trying not to fucking yawn. It's very late, and I'm still waiting for the caffeine from the hostility to smack me in the face and really get me going. But yeah, basic leg day. One thing which I really want to make sure I do is go nuts on quads. Like I said a second ago, hamstrings, I've got no problem. It's not really, I don't really have to dig insanely deep to take a set of hamstrings to total failure. And even a little bit beyond, because like on the seated hamstring curl, I'm going to be able to kind of, push the lever down a little bit and give myself some assisted reps. Hamstrings, no problem, But quads takes a little bit more guts. Maybe not even a little. Quads takes a lot more fucking guts to hit hard. Even leg extensions, I mean, fuck, dude. Unless I'm doing like a crazy amount of weight, it's definitely a challenge to push through like the last 15 or 10 reps once they start burning. And I'm not too much of a baby to admit it. Or no, what am I saying here? I'm not too much of a meathead to admit it. I don't know. All I'm trying to say is leg extensions, if you're really pushing it hard, it is difficult to really take them to failure. I'd probably huff and puff a little bit, maybe not more, maybe just as much for a set of leg extensions as I do for a set of heavy squats. But yeah, that's kind of my main goal. This is this is kind of something I like thinking about myself. Just just kind of gets me going. But when I think of like video collabs and stuff. Like I'm sure eventually we'll have workouts with all sorts of characters on here. You know, fucking whatever lifter under the sun I can convince to come do like a chest day or whatever. But I like to kind of imagine making it a contest of sorts. You know, not about weight, not about like just, you know, pure numbers, but like a contest of intensity, you know? Like that's just kind of something which comes with lifting with somebody else. Now, of course, all these videos are just me alone. So I don't really have somebody to egg me on next to me. But when you do, you know, it is kind of, it's pretty fucking fun. Just because, you know, if you're really killing it and somebody else is doing that with you right next to you, it's kind of just a little extra motivation. Because that should, at least ideally, you know, if you've got any pride as a lifter, that should kind of fire you up to say, all right, I'm gonna go harder than this guy. And that doesn't mean heavier. That doesn't mean heavier for more reps, even though, you know, it does a little. But, you know, all I'm talking about is trying to push a set to the point where if people are watching you, they get, you know, like I like to think this is the kind of set I want to be able to do all the time, is like do sets to the point where if anybody was watching you do that, they would kind of think to themselves like, oh my god, why doesn't he end it? Like, is like, if someone were to think, okay, that's his last rep, and then you somehow manage like 5 more, like stuff like that kind of hypes me up to think about. So not all my sets are like that, which kind of makes me a little bit upset. But that's kind of the bar which I want to be able to reach intensity wise on a much more consistent basis. You know, I get some crazy sets out, maybe even a couple pretty often, but you know, I want to do that all the time. So keyword intensity. You know, it's not necessarily about how much weight you lift, but how much weight you can lift relative to your own strength, and just, you know, kind of how far you take it. So I assume the gym is empty. Let's try to get nuts. I was about to start on really heavy hamstring curls on the seated machine, but my right one was giving me a little bit of I was basically getting a touch of spidey sense on my right hamstring. I was like, okay, that feels a little bit. I'm just like, nothing even bad, but I could tell the right one just had a little something going on, kind of like on my inner something or other. Nothing bad, but to the point where it made me say, okay, I maybe don't want to do that. I'll do lighter single leg curls on the leg extension. So I've got a big ass bumper plate underneath, because I don't know if you know how leg curls work, but for the most part, if you want it to feel good, you want this little pin, which this thing is rotating around, to be pretty much right at knee height. So if I were to just stand here, I mean, look, fucking my knee's right here. This thing's like 6 inches above it. That's not going to work. Now, if I stand on this fucking like 6 inch bumper plate, okay, that's starting to look about right. My knee's about that height. So when I slip my legs in here and I do one leg curls, the pad is actually going to stay on the same part of my heel for the whole movement. So if your leg curl's broken or your gym really just doesn't fucking have one, reverse leg extensions will do the trick. You kind of have to go a little bit lighter though. This is more of a squeezing kind of set, but let's get some of these done. Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think one more. Whew. Now, of course, my my tensions, my hamstrings aren't as in. They're not in as much tension as I can, get with a really heavy seated hamstring curl. But, dude, I mean, when it comes to squeezing apart, and not even. I mean, of course you can squeeze on a seated curl or a laying curl, but I can probably get the best squeeze on my hamstrings doing single leg curls like these. Or, better yet, with an actual dedicated single leg curl machine. But hamstrings getting wrecked, even with pretty moderate weight, that's fine by me. I did one more set of those single leg curls. I did not hit the record button, but it did look like the other ones. So my hamstrings already feel pretty fucking wrecked. Burn wise, pump wise. I'm not going to say for sure because I kind of have to see how it feels afterwards. But I think if this is a good set, this might just be it. Because my my hamstrings kind of feel, and I know that sounds silly to say, but like they feel done. Over the course of doing all these lifts, I think, and I'm not going to say for 100% certain, but I think I've got a pretty solid idea of kind of the subjective feeling, fatigue wise, burn wise, pump wise of a muscle group to the point where I can say, okay, that's enough stimulus. It will result in some stimulus. Now that I'm dieting down, that stimulus is muscle maintenance. The whole point of working out right now is not to grow muscle. I'm dieting down. The whole point of these workouts are to maintain the muscle I already have on my frame as well as my strength while I peel off body fat on the outside. So I don't necessarily think of the workout as like growing muscle. The workout is purely to stimulate your muscle. And then what you do outside of the gym, diet-wise, recovery-wise, is what's going to determine exactly what that stimulus results in. If you're bulking up and you stimulate the fuck out of your muscle, it's going to grow, because when it recovers, it's going to come back stronger, bigger. We all get the gist, hypertrophy. And when you're dieting down, right, you're going to keep your size. Everyone knows if you stop working out, you're going to start fucking shrinking. Use it or lose it. I feel like I'm just repeating every basic piece of intel in the book. So let's just hit this one. And if I say ready for quads, that's the plan. And if I feel like I need one more set or maybe even two more sets to really get the, last bits of juice out of the towel on my hamstrings, then that's fine too. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Let's get some leg extensions started. Oh, goodness. I promise you, you have not truly done leg extensions until you jerry rig a belt setup. Because every time I do fucking leg extensions, even if I try to really hold myself down hard, I can't seriously fucking. I mean, look, I'm literally locked in, you know? Like when I sit here with this for this double leg set, if I were to hold the fucking handles, I'm firing my traps, I'm firing my forearms. It's gonna be harder for me to breathe because I'm kind of hunched and like tensing my whole fucking torso. And that's gonna put me a little bit out of breath before I even get to actually doing the set of quads. So, like most movements, bodybuilding style, or at least, the main idea I feel behind bodybuilding training for the most part is kind of isolation. If I want to hit my biceps, I'm going to do a bicep curl. I'm not going to do a fucking, well, I don't know, whatever movement hits my biceps, but also hits my shoulders and my back. It's all about isolation. So if I can take my forearms and my traps and my back and, my whole diaphragm out of the equation and just use a belt to hold myself down to the hips, that's perfect. That is going to let me spend so much more energy on quads themselves. And I think you gotta, I mean, I'm just trying to say, don't underestimate the amount of fatigue that you get from your stabilizing muscles, especially when it's all up in fucking here. Like when I do a set of squats, of course, my quads usually give out first if I go heavy enough, of course. But just holding that much weight and like fucking flexing my abs and, really bracing and keep my lower back straight and holding the bar super tight, all of that is sapping away your energy, man. And every set that you do, you've only got so much. You know what I'm saying? So try to take everything out of the equation that you can and just smash whatever your targeted muscle is. So that's the plan here. Few sets, stack plus a plate. Not like the craziest amount of weight ever, but definitely enough to really wreck my quads. So I'm going to try to get to the point when I can barely do a few inches range of motion. Probably do that maybe 3-4 times or so, and then decide if I want to try to do like some squats, some Smith, some hacks, some leg press, and I can really go wherever from there. But let's get going here. Get hyped up. Okay. Okay. A few more just like that. And when it comes to when it comes to spamming leg extensions for a while, it gets harder because I don't know if it's just my quads or maybe I don't notice it as much with other muscle groups, but as my quads get more and more pumped, I don't really like on something like leg extensions, it does not aid to the ease of the sets. Like when it comes to squats and stuff, sometimes being pumped quad wise can make this, well, not like easier, but you kind of get a spring effect because your quads start to get way more tense. And just the action of squatting down is making them want to, pull your quad back to straight. But with leg extensions, even with the same weight, back to back to back, each set, you're going to see it. The reps are going to go like this as I get more and more fatigued. But let's Let's get ready to camp out here. Okay. Okay. Let's make that a drop set into sissy squats. Okay. I think that's fucking it, man. Quads are thrashed. I meant to only do like a set or two of leg extensions, then move on. But they felt fucking good today. Oh, let's go see how they're looking. Okay. I just scurried over after that little superset. Oh, and for dieting, so, right now I'm flat, I'm not full of fucking carbs. I am insanely fucking pumped just by feeling. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, I love squats, and I do advocate them, but if I had to pick one movement for quads, leg extension. Leg extension, for sure. That's the top dog for me. Oh, not that I want to do only leg extensions every quad workout, but it does happen without too much, let's just say, infrequency. Oh my God. Come on. So what do you think? What do you freaking think, man? Is that a set of quads? Certainly looks it. Oh my goodness. Let's actually get a little bit of a fucking, let's just do a zoom in for, to actually be able to see what's going on underneath. Oh, goodness. I mean, you tell me. You fucking tell me. Is that a set of fucking quads or what? Oh my goodness. That's killer. That is actually fucking good. Not that I'm surprised, but still. Are these... Am I stretch marking right now? What are these lines? I've never seen these before. I know I'm pumped. I don't think I'm stretch mark pumped. Oh my goodness. Okay. There aren't really that many fucking dedicated quad poses, apart from just standing and, flexing like a madman. I'm satisfied. I am highly satisfied with that lift, even though it was relatively fucking brief. I mean, quads, goodness. Quads was what, like fucking 6 sets? Mate, or was it 5? I can't even remember now. But just leg extensions, fucking slamming them. And then before that was just leg curls. Some single leg first and then some double leg. So there was some variability there. But really, that was fucking it. And I wouldn't go so far as to say every lift should look exactly like that. I mean, I'm definitely missing out on adductor activation, the part of my hamstrings which are, maybe going to come into play a bit more in a hip hinging type movement, as well as just the sensation of a long pressing set for sure. But at the end of the lift, now that I can put all the weight away, sit down and just do a little quad flex and say, oh my goodness, legs are wrecked, pumped to the point of fucking skin tightness, maybe even a little bit too much skin tightness over here. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. I don't care what kind of workout you do. If you do an arm day that's only fucking, 30 rep sets of curls, alternating that and like 30 rep sets of push downs for 15 sets or whatever, no matter what you end up doing, if you end with a decent amount of fatigue, like not just tiredness like doing cardio, but, weight induced fatigue, and you're pumped to all hell, I think you did something right. And the more often you can end a lift with those two factors being satisfied, I think the more likely you are to have progress, which is going to look a little more like this, a little more of an upward trend, So a big part of that, I think, is being consistently prepared, at least to a reasonable degree. Get more than 3 hours of sleep. Get off get off Discord, playing, your 5th round of Counter-Strike comp, or Overwatch or whatever. Maybe try to turn TikTok off before you spend 3 hours in bed scrolling. Realize you have to wake up in, 4 hours, and then try to get pretty shit sleep. So what I'm trying to say there is get decent rest, drink a ton of fucking fluids, to the point where you're actually doing it like kind of all the time. Like if you've got like a water bottle or like a jug, and it doesn't have to be water, you throw some Crystal Light in there if you're dieting down. Have a fucking Gatorade Zero. I mean, that's what I was sipping on during this workout. I had it over by my locker. It's probably going to do you good. And not just in a lifting context, but you're just going to feel better, man. Right? We all know this. We all know you should get a good amount of sleep. You should drink a lot of fluids and stay hydrated. You should probably eat a reasonable diet. And by reasonable, I mean, hit all your necessary macros, right? Get your fucking good amount of protein in and your, a reasonable amount of fats. Maybe throw in some fucking egg whites, maybe splurge a little bit and get some salmon for a night one night. Get some, up your omega-3 game up, right? Take some fish oil. And then, more likely than not, if you do all those 3 things, well rested, well fed, well hydrated, when you come to the gym and just your day-to-day fucking life walking around, you're probably going to feel better, And at the end of the day, that's pretty fucking important, Who wants to walk around feeling like shit? I mean, that would suck, right? And in a lifting context, the better you feel, right? The less general fatigue and uncomfortability that exerting yourself is going to give you. And then you're probably going to like what you're doing, push yourself harder, finish the workout with a crazy pump, look in the mirror, say, holy fuck, take a few pictures, throw them in your Snapchat, my eyes only, and be able to scroll through them over time and see your progress. And go home and do it again, man. I mean, come on, that's sick. You know, it's not like I hit my fucking preparation every lift. I still have really shit sleep every so often if I don't manage my time properly, or if I'm traveling or whatever else, or I'm slacking on my hydration game and I'm a bit dehydrated for the lift, or I didn't really eat, a solid amount of meals pre-lift. And whenever that happens, man, it sucks. Compared to when you feel good, energized, and fed, a lift where you kind of feel like shit, you're a bit dehydrated, dude, it is not even close to as fun. It's probably, I was about to say it's like a fifth as enjoyable, but it's probably worse than that. When I feel good, the lift is fucking awesome. I love it, right? Everything clicks, man. No matter what kind of sets I end up doing, I'm feeling the burn, I'm fucking getting pumped up, everything's working. If I'm fucking dehydrated or have really crap sleep, the sets feel like work. I'm still going to do them because, of course, I like them and I still want to get as good of a pump as possible. But I know for a fact that if I tried to do a leg day when I had, fuck all for sleep, hardly drank anything, and I'm like, okay, just take the pre-workout, hit it, come on. Not as fun, man. Not as fucking fun. And in terms of longevity, that is probably up there, just as important as anything else, is being able to enjoy the training that you're doing. Because no one is going to do anything for a long period of time unless they're mandated to do it if they don't enjoy it. How would you feel if every time you had to go to, I don't know, I can't really think of an example. Whatever. If you don't like what you're doing, you're not going to do it. And you're definitely not going to go hard when you do it. And in terms of lifting, if you don't go hard, guess what? No results, right? No effort, no reward. Very simple. Very freaking simple indeed. So, plan now is throw my pants back on, probably sit for a little bit longer and just kind of, I'll probably just scroll TikTok for like 20 minutes in the car before I drive home. And then have a little, actually, I don't have too many calories left. I'm already at like 1,900 so far for the day. No, I get a decent meal when I get home. So I'll just try to fill up my macros, get some sleep, and then prepare for some cramming tomorrow. Oh my God. As predicted, post-workout, 30 minutes of, what am I even saying? I was trying to say post-workout, 30 minutes of cardio. No, post-workout, 30 minutes of TikTok. Complete. And now, it's time for bed. It's time for BED, where you really make your gains. Where you really recover. Where you really undo the damage that you've done during the lift, as well as, potentially, and not really a cut, but when you're trying to bulk up and you're eating in a legit surplus, that's when you're actually gonna, slap a couple extra grams of protein on your bicep, or your chest, or your legs. Today, quads, hamstrings. Ah, man. What was I about to say? I had the perfect idea for like a whole talk that would be an awesome topic for the whole way home. I must have watched too many Turkish Quandale Dingus TikToks, because all of my, good topics have fleed from my mind. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's a sign I should stop scrolling. It never does me any good. Not that it really does anybody too much good. It is kind of funny though, so I will probably keep doing it to my dismay. But solid lift, and really, I am fucking surprised how pumped my quads were. Like, I mean, I don't know how experienced you are with a leg pump or pumps in general, really good ones, but quads, you kind of, I mean, take your quad for example right now. You know, if you're standing up, even better. Just stand up, don't flex your quads at all. Just, poke them. They're probably pretty soft. You can kind of make an indentation into them. They're kind of jiggly. Even if you're lean, muscle is just fucking, it's got play in it, right? It's kind of soft until you manually fucking flex it. But over the course of that quad portion of the lift, they gradually got tighter and tighter and tighter, just more fucking like, swollen and pumped up to the point where standing up at the end of that quad day without even flexing my quads, it really fucking felt like I was trying to squeeze them as hard as I could. I mean, not as hard as I could, but they were pretty fucking tight, which I'd say is pretty much a good sign that you're pumped up. When it comes to the pump itself, different muscle groups will have kind of different indicators that you kind of had a good lift, apart from just the fact that you're pumped up. Like, your body, when you had a good bicep day. But there are a few little states of being which are special for each one. When my hamstrings are really pumped up, I kind of walk a little bit more funny. I kind of have a bit of a hobble, like a cowboy, because the back of my leg is now really tight, so I don't naturally have a good sway of my step, because my legs don't really want to extend completely straight when I'm walking. So after a really good hamstring day, and I'm walking kind of funny for a little while my hamstrings are still fully pumped, I know there's some good stuff going on. And then quads, kind of similar, but just in the opposite factor. So my legs don't really want to bend. Like, I can tell doing that last set of sissy squats, or the last few reps rather, even going down and like sitting in the hole, like, the squat part of the squat, I could tell I almost wasn't even like flexing my quads, but they just would not really, they didn't really want to bend any further, just because, like I was saying earlier, when your quads are pumped up, they kind of have just more fucking tension in them, and they don't want to bend. They just want to stay fucking straight. So, I feel like when I sit down, or if I were to sit on a chair where my feet didn't touch the ground with a really good quad pump, my legs would almost naturally want to raise up from just hanging straight down, because my quads would want to pull them a little bit. And then arms, obvious, when you can't actually touch your shoulder. Like right now, I can fucking reach over. I get some front delt connection right here. But in, 3 days, when I do arms again, when they're fully pumped up, I'm not going to be able to get my middle finger even 2 inches to my fucking shoulder, because my bicep is literally getting in the way of my fucking range of motion. So, shoulders, chest, back, that doesn't really limit your mobility so much. You kind of just know you're, fucking pumped up. Not that I need to tell you. Not that I need to tell you when you're pumped. You know it. You know it. If you're getting pumped up, fully hydrated, well fed, and you had a hype ass lift with a good soundtrack playing, come on. You don't need me to tell you that you're pumped up to hell, right? I saw that new bicep vein. Holy shit. Keep it up. And speaking of veins, I'm kind of getting excited. So we're only like, I mean, I say we. I'm only like a week and a few days into trying to diet down. And I've said this before, but in this, there's kind of multiple phases, right, of bulking and cutting. Of course, you bulk up, you gain weight, and it should look like this. Maybe a little bit of a curve to it, and it's also kind of spiky up and down day by day. But for the most part, the bulk looks like this. You gain weight, and if you diet down, you lose weight. Now, if you did it right, you should be just as lean as you are at the end as you were in the beginning, if not maybe even leaner, but also heavier. So you've got more muscle. You gain 20 pounds of muscle and fat, and then you lost 10 pounds of fat. Boom, 10-pound muscle gain. Now, your results may vary, of course. 10 pounds on one bulk, that's bananas. I don't even do that. But I'm just saying that as an example. You gain a certain amount of muscle and fat. It's just the nature of if you really push yourself into a legit surplus. And then you diet down to try to remove the fat, but hold on all the muscle. So in that process, when you start, let's just kind of start mid-bulk. Mid-bulk, you get a little bit of softness on you. You're pretty full of carbs. Your pumps are insane. You feel fucking huge. It's a good time. And then as the bulk progresses, you pretty much maintain that feeling all the way through. And at the end of the bulk, you are the biggest. As long as, even if you plateaued, right there, you're still the heaviest that you've ever been. Or at least, you're heavier than you were in the beginning. You are a little bit softer. You're not going to be expecting the most insane arm veins or striations anywhere. But you're big, you're strong, you're full of carbs. Even if you're a little bit soft, your pumps are so crazy it fucking makes up for it. So, a pretty good state of being. Well, I'm not going to complain about having a little bit of extra body fat when my arms are so pumped that I feel like I can't even straighten them out completely because my biceps are so tight. That's fucking sick. And then the bulk is over. You've gained a substantial amount of weight. You can't really put on any more. Eating is becoming challenging to the point of, you just can't really do it on a consistent basis. You're not going to be able to eat. You're really just plateaued. Nobody wants to stay in the same state forever. You do kind of want to constantly be progressing in some way or another. So if that's the case, your bulk is substantially over. You've got enough body fat to the point where you want to say, okay, I want to get lean again, reset my appetite, get my insulin sensitivity back into, totally normal, whatever, and then get ready for another bulk later. And this is if you're, bulking and cutting, of course. So as soon as you start dieting down, that's pretty much your least good looking state. Those first few weeks of dieting down, or potentially pushing month, 2-month mark, depending on how much body fat you've got from your bulk, those are kind of the not so fun times. Now, of course, I still like it because I'm progressing. It's just a move you got to make, of course. But you are, I'm just saying this objectively, you are the fattest that you'll ever be because you just came out of a legit bulk and now you've dropped your calories, you're in a deficit. So you got all this body fat on you and your muscles they've now deflated a little bit. Not because muscle mass disappeared off your frame, but you gotta remember, muscles are mainly fucking water, mainly intramuscular fluids. Now, of course, there's muscle fibers in there. It's not all just water, but that's kind of what makes up most of it. Glycogen, sarcoplasm, all sorts of fancy terms. And as soon as you start dieting down, you're gonna drop those fluids pretty fucking quick. The first few pounds that you lose when you go into a deficit, it's not muscle or fat. It's just intramuscular carbs. So carbs and water, right? Glycogen, glyco, fucking carbs, gin, or ogen, hydrogen, whatever. Sugar, water, that's the first 5 pounds you drop. It just disappears like nothing. Because now you're no longer constantly refilling your muscles. Fucking, sugar gas tanks all the time with a calorie surplus. And that's your most readily available energy source. So your body's gonna say, shit, man, I'm fucking hungry, man. I gotta eat. I guess I'll use the fucking, I don't know if I can really think of a real world example here. But whatever. It's gonna use its most readily available energy source first, being your intramuscular water and carbs. Or I mean the carbs, but the water is gonna come with it. So week one of dieting down from a bulk, you are a touch flatter. Your muscles have literally, depleted in size by, an amount that you're probably going to notice. Maybe other people won't, but I mean, we're all like hypersensitive to our own physiques and whatnot. Now, how you let that affect your mind, that's a whole different story. I'm talking body dysmorphia kind of shit. But that's just the nature of it. And then once you're in that flattened state, that's when you're really going to be losing body fat, because you no longer have full carbs in your muscles to use as energy, and you're not replenishing that energy with a calorie surplus or even calorie maintenance. You're eating less calories than your body needs to just regulate itself day by day. So it's going to use its next readily available energy source, the fat that you've got stored all around you. Now, depending on your body fat deposition, I was about to say style, type, genetics, body fat distribution. That's what I'm thinking. It's going to start coming off some places quicker than others. Probably your arms first. That's not like, no, it's going to come off everywhere evenly. What am I even saying here? So once you're flattened down and you maintain a calorie deficit, then the cut will kind of look like this. So bulking up should be a pretty steady increase. And then how I go about it when I kind of jump right into a diet, because it's not going to be that long. I'm not really worried about muscle atrophy. I'm not worried about losing muscle in the 2-month dieting phase. So bulk up, maybe plateaued, and then drop calories. So it is kind of a steep kind of 10-pound, 5-pound jump, depending on how big you are. So bulk, plateau, cut, instant drop of your sugar water, and then it should be steady sailing from there, as long as you maintain a consistent calorie deficit. So I've already gone through that initial drop phase. I went from up at 250, up around 260 to 250. I mean, that happened within fucking days. And now, steadily losing body fat. So over the course of the next few weeks, I feel like I said this in the last drive back, but whatever, I will just get progressively leaner. And the cool thing about being on the leaner side of things, I'm talking going from what we conventionally think of as like 15% body fat to like 8% body fat. I'm not saying those numbers are accurate, but when you think 14% body fat, a look appears in your mind. Like not super lean, but still pretty defined. Like you can see all your muscles, your abs are visible, but they're kind of soft. And then going from that to a little bit more shredded, you're starting to see way more forearm veins, maybe even chest veins when you're pumped up. You can see all the separations in your quads. Going from that softer look to that more cut look, kind of down in around the 10% body fat range, there is a leanness effect which will make you look bigger and fucking cooler. So that's the gold, right? If you're somebody who's on the higher end of the body fat spectrum, as it were, that's me putting it softly. Like if you're kind of a fatter dude, you got a bit more mining to do. You're not just going to strike oil on the first dig, but it's still down there. So even though, and I'm not saying you can't notice gains or, body fat loss progress over the course of time, going from a 300-pound dude, pretty soft, to a 250-pound dude, that is an extremely noticeable jump. But once you get way down there, that's where you kind of see this reversal effect, where instead of looking smaller and like more just kind of toned and athletic, especially in photos, which I mean, everybody loves a cool photo of themselves. Instead of, looking smaller, because when you lose body fat, you are literally shrinking your body in a way. You're losing size, technically. Like my arms are going to be smaller around at the end of this dieting phase than they are right now. But even though they do get smaller, the fact that you're becoming lean enough to the point where your muscles are going to show more, and like when you get a pump, you're going to be veinier, especially if you get freaky lighting, fancy pants, not even fancy camera, even just any, when you're in cool lighting, you look extra cool. We all know this. So instead of gradually just, kind of shrinking down in a way, you start to appear bigger and look just fucking way cooler. And it's a pretty quick process once you're down to that level of body fat. Because, I mean, your waist is fucking, you shrink down, man. I've got pants which I wear now and they're tight around my fucking quads when I'm bulked up. But they're pretty much a perfect fit when I diet down. And, especially when I'm actually legit lean. So, I mean, my quads have shrunk. They've literally shrunk. They fit the jeans way better. But when I fucking, drop trowel and do the pump check in the running shorts, they look fucking huge in comparison. Just because they're cooler, they're more detailed. You can see all this fancy shit going on, right? So do not underestimate the leanness effect. That's all I'm trying. Or I mean, I'm not even making an argument here. I'm just kind of saying this shit. So that's what I'm going for. Not that I'm ever, too soft anyway, so I'm pretty spoiled there. But the freak factor will improve. It will increase as time progresses. And oh yeah, so what am I even talking about? So that initial phase of cutting down, it's kind of the hardest. It's pretty much a necessity that you've got delayed gratification. You've got delayed gratification ingrained in your noggin, because it's not insanely fun in the beginning, And I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, like, oh, I'm complaining, but there aren't really any positives that you get to enjoy or get to feel benefits from right when you start dieting down, because you've still got just as much body fat as you had the week before, because you're not really losing body fat in the beginning. You're just burning off your glycogen stores. Everybody's got, I'm not sure how much carbs kind of just readily available in their body when they're at maintenance calories. I think it depends on how big you are, of course, but I think it's upwards of like 500 grams, maybe 600 grams. So if you're not in a steep deficit, that's going to take a while to disappear. So you're not losing body fat. You are eating in a deficit, so you are going to be hungry. You can't just eat whatever you want. You are going to get a little bit weaker in your lifts because you're no longer supplying your fucking muscles with a crazy amount of food. And then, you're probably going to take a little bit longer to recover. You may be just a touch more sore, and your pumps aren't going to be as crazy. So that's like 5 things that kind of suck in a way. I wouldn't want those to be the case all the time, of course. But once you get over that initial hurdle, then you can start to see pretty linear progress. And you just kind of get acclimated to your strength level. This is where it becomes a little bit more beneficial for you to not be insanely attached to how you look in the moment or your strength levels at the moment. Because, if it's a deal breaker for you to not be able to bench 225 because you started dieting down and now you're only doing 185 for your normal sets, if that's a deal breaker for you, then you're never going to want to get lean, because you won't be able to accept the fact that you're going to get a little bit weaker. Whereas the enlightened lifter, I feel like I haven't said that term for a fucking while, he gets it. He knows that that's just a fucking, symptom of the progress that he's putting himself into. But, it kind of sucks in the beginning dieting down. Then you start to get a touch leaner. It starts to get cooler because you're like, oh shit, look at me. By then you should kind of be used to the deficit, hopefully. So it's not too much of a struggle for you. Maybe you've learned a little bit more dieting tips. You've been eating more low calorie options. I'm talking keto bread, sugar-free jelly, powdered peanut butter. I'm talking a bowl of ground beef with fat-free cheese mixed in with some low sugar barbecue sauce. I got a couple I can run off the cuff. I'll try to save them for later when I actually do like a whole eating video. And then by the end of it, you're pretty fucking lean. Depending on how long you diet down for, it's cool. If you've never been legit lean, it looks pretty fucking cool. Not even just to show off to anybody else, but if you've been working out for a while, I'm sure you want to fucking see what you look like diced. So, apart from the fact that I am dieting down for the point of being able to bulk up again, because I need to kind of reset my appetite and everything else, I still like dieting down because I'm kind of getting, not even a glimpse, I'm getting a real fucking look at all the progress I've made so far. So in a way, I feel like I'm hiking up a mountain of gains. And every time I diet down, that's me taking a break. That's me setting up camp, turning around, and looking at the view. So for the 2 months I diet down, I get to kind of see where I'm at, see all sorts of fancy striations. Also, get a look at my weak points, because when you're bulked up, it is a little bit harder to assess what muscles are really lagging, because any big slacking muscle parts you have, muscle groups, you'll notice. If your triceps are insanely smaller than your biceps, you'll notice even when you're bulked up. But a real gauge of how you look is when you're dieted down, because that's really, you're not carved up, you're lean, you can still see all your muscle tissue. And if you're kind of posing down in the morning, no pump, no nothing, that's you. And that's what you can use to assess, like, okay, I think, oh man, maybe I shouldn't be skipping legs so much. Jesus, that's really how big they are? Oh man, oof. It can be kind of an eye-opener. So not only do you get to see where you're at and say, oh, chest is sick. Holy crap, I've never seen that many lines on my back before. Is that a tricep striation? Not only do you get to see the cool shit, but you can also kind of take a look at where you're headed and readjust your course, right? So that's kind of where you're at once you're really lean, or even just not even insanely lean, like bodybuilding show lean, but just, if you're the leanest that you've ever been, it is going to be fucking cool for you. And it doesn't even have to be like something that everybody would think of as like, holy shit, that guy's diced. Like, for you to get as lean as you've ever been, that's going to feel as good as getting insanely diced. Because in both states, you're still as lean as you've ever been. You're not going to be suddenly twice as happy because you're twice as lean if you've never been this lean before, is what I'm trying to say there. And then once you've dieted down to a proper level of body fat, or however far you want to go, then you start bulking up again. And the beginning of the bulk is probably one of the coolest times, because you're as lean as you ever are. You're eating, I don't just open the floodgates as soon as the bulk starts and like chow down on 8,000 calories of ice cream and fruit snacks and everything else. And just, even normal foods too. I'm talking bowls of rice with steaks, soy sauce and ramens, and just mashed potatoes, everything. But even just starting to eat in a mild surplus, you do fill out. So the beginning of a bulk is pretty cool if you're doing a bulk and cut kind of loop for a while, because you're as lean as you ever are, you're pretty much full of fucking carbs, you're strong, you're extra crazy looking because now you're lean and full of fucking food. Dude, plus you're making gains again, you're actually putting on muscle, you're making legit progress. Come on, it's just fun. So freaking fun. It's like the seasons. Sure, I don't necessarily love when it rains. I don't necessarily love walking around in the cold, but it's just part of the process before summer comes back and you can lay out in the sun and go to the pool and shit. If you get what I'm saying there. So that's kind of where I'm at. And that's kind of how I think about the whole bulking and dieting down process for me. So if you're a diehard main gainer, you never want to lose your abs, but you never want to be insanely diced either, and just kind of consistently grow slowly over time. If you're growing, who gives a shit? That's fucking killer, you know? But if you've done that for a few years and you're not really growing anymore, I would say, think about a bulk. Just give it a little bit of thought. Nothing crazy. Maybe just 500 calorie surplus if you've been tracking your calories. Maybe that's a more important step. Just start tracking your macros. But the people who really want to do that, they will. They will. If you've lifted for long enough and like, okay, I want to put a little bit more effort into this. I don't want to just drink a protein shake after I work out and have that be it. Because the more that you can kind of, I don't want to say control. Let's just say optimize. I know that's kind of silly for me to say. But the more that you can optimize everything lifting related outside of the lift itself, the better. The fucking better. I'm talking about a pre-workout, getting a decent amount of sleep, making sure you eat a reasonable diet, throw some multivitamins in there with some fish oils, stay well hydrated, lift hard, track all your macros, take your creatine, literally fucking proven to work. I don't know why people don't. Come on, man. Even though some of those things may only have marginal benefits, when you add them up, that's going to separate you from the guy next to you. And it's not like you're in competition with, everybody else. That's not the point. But, if everybody else is kind of slacking, and then you start turning up the gas for yourself and putting more energy into shit and really kind of, getting into a good routine, you're going to make better gains. You are going to make better gains. I can guarantee it. And I think that's, come on. Is there any better motivator than that? For a lifter, at least. I guess for a non-lifter, they don't care. But, if you've taken the purple pill, the Planet Fitness pill, or I don't know of any other gyms that are like color themed. But if you've taken the gym pill, come on. Gains are probably the one thing which could bribe you into all sorts of illicit activities. So I think that's all I got to say there. I'm hungry. I'm sleepy. That's really just the main two things I'm feeling right now. I'm hungry and I'm sleepy. So I'm going to take care of those two things in order. Food. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, and I'm stinky. So, wait, no. Hungry, stinky, sleepy. There we go. I'll take care of those three things in order. Yeah, what am I talking about? Ugh. Who gets into bed dirty? Are you guys nuts? Oh my goodness. But whatever. Keep lifting. Not that I need to tell you that. So I'll see you tomorrow for chest. And I'm going to add calves. Going to add some calves in there as well, I think. I don't know. I always say I'll add calves and then I don't do it. I'm such a fucking slacker with them. I guess we'll see. Not like I've got the smallest calves ever, but come on. We all need bigger calves. So I will see you for that.